Man, this is the hardest comparison I had to do of all the ones I've done so far. Picking a winner really is hard. What's up guys, it's Andrew at Motorcycles Offroad. In today's video we're going to compare the Honda CRF300L versus the KLX300. And this is a very interesting video because this is one of the first comparisons that I've done, and I had about, 1,000 subscribers, and now we're pushing up to 15,000. But what makes it more interesting is people always ask for this comparison in comments almost daily. I get tons and tons of people. Some people just say KLX300 and other videos, other reviews. So this is definitely an interesting one. And in that year or so, the original video got 145,000 views, something crazy like that. So that being said, this is a little like a TLDR, like a new condensed version for all the new people who joined and haven't seen that video. But if you're looking to get this motorcycle, maybe check that video out and check this one out, because there will be similar information, but obviously this has been a year later, so I'm going to be looking at it at a different perspective and, to make the best informed decision for buying the motorcycle for yourself. Both of these motorcycles are very less expensive, Japanese built, reliable, dual sports that can double as ATV bikes, single cylinder thumpers with fuel injection, 6-speed transmissions. Both of them are pretty fantastic, but we're going to compare them. And by side, I'll tell you which one that I think is better, and I'll give you my reasoning why I think one edges out the other. All right, first thing to talk about is the MSRP. The MSRP, now that the Honda is $5,350, and also it comes with handguards or whatever in a different color scheme, so you can pick the two, but it's not really relevant. The KLX is about $300 more. But my argument for that is, if you're going to buy the KLX, I think aesthetically, the camo black looks amazing. The KLX, the standard one, the green's cool, but it has the silver rims, and it doesn't look as cool as the black to me. So I personally would go with the black, and so that tacks on another $300. Now I do hear people in the comments, they say, well, where are you getting that price? Because there's freight and assembly, which of course there's freight and assembly. That's with any bike that you buy new. But these are the MSRPs, and if we weren't in this crazy time of this pandemic where everybody's trying to grab every single bike, you would be able to negotiate those fees off and get it closer, or maybe even less than MSRP as it was a few years ago. But being that bikes are rare and people just want to grab them up, yes, you're going to pay for the freight and assembly fees, but we have to base it on something, right? So the MSRP is the MSRP, and I'm talking US dollars here in America. I understand that in other countries the price is different, but that's what it is here. All right, so the Honda 300L has an ABS model, which will cost $300, and the KLX has a Supermoto. The Honda also offers the Rally. So if you want to go, be a goon and do, tricks in the streets and of, cities and stuff, the Supermoto, no, to be honest, the Supermoto is kind of cool, and it'd be great to weave in and out of traffic, very agile bike. Or you can get the 300L Rally, which is what I have, which is for long adventures, off-road, stuff like that, which is something that this guy loves to do. So depending on what you like, there's also other versions, but we're talking about the L and the standard KLX in this video. Because the KLX does not offer ABS, that kind of limits where it's sold. There's a lot of countries that will not get this motorcycle because some countries have strict standards now where you have to have ABS, and I feel like Kawasaki kind of missed the mark with that. They should have offered that version at least in those countries to make this motorcycle more popular and at least more readily available, because competition in the market in those countries is better for everybody that lives there. So that's kind of a miss in my opinion. Now, of course, are either of these motorcycles going to be perfect? No. I mean, you're buying a platform, less expensive motorcycle that if you want to, you can modify to your specific needs. Like my 300L, I made it more for like a single trail bike, and my Rally, I made it more for like a light Avenger bike. And the same thing with the KLX. You can definitely modify it to be more what you need. Of course, racks, bags, anything that you want like this. So don't expect that it's not a buy one thing like a $11,000 KTM that's going to be set up completely ready for, hard enduro or anything like that. These are not these type of motorcycles. These are long service interval, reliable, like motorcycles that are not as performance. But that's a good thing. Like if you like something that you don't have to work on very often, you change your oil. I mean, both of these bikes have great service intervals, thousands of miles. You do it once a year, or if you've been sucking up a lot of dirt, maybe twice a year at that, and the bike won't care. So that's a great thing. Don't need to do valves often. That's a great thing. So both of these bikes excel in that. One of my friends has the 250 KLX300, the other one has the Honda 250L. I've rode both of them. I did comparisons of the 250L to the 300, of course. But I will have to say that out of the 250 versions, I prefer the KLX over the Honda. Now the Honda, besides having bulletproof reliability and being known for being able to go anywhere and never having any problems, I feel like the KLX kind of edges it out in performance, suspension, and everything for the price points of both of these bikes are used, and they're very similar price points. The KLX, in my opinion, is the better motorcycle. If you're going to pick one up, that's the 250 and save some money. When it comes to the 300 version, the 300 versions are close, but I prefer the Honda over the Kawasaki. I'm going to break down why and give you my points here, so just follow along. And, you know, if you like the Kawasaki, maybe you can see the points that I'm about to lay out and you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. Okay, my big deciding factors is, number one, the dash. The KLX is just the same standard thing that they put on the 250. The Honda dash really stepped up, and as so far as these cheap dual sports go, like let's say the DRZ and all those things, the Honda has the best one. You got a fuel indicator, you got a gear indicator, a tachometer. You can set it to tell you, like, I mean, how many miles to empty. It's insane how much you can do. I mean, it's only got a couple buttons, so it's kind of a pain to navigate through, but just the initial display and everything you're getting there should be standard on all motorcycles now. There's no reason for you to buy a dual sport in 2022, 2023, and you're popping open the cap trying to guess how much fuel you have in there because you forgot to reset your trip odometer. That should not be a thing anymore. It's so easy to fix, to accommodate that, and if you're going to keep making models, I just feel that that should be a thing. The Honda has that. All right, the transmission. I prefer the transmission much better on the Honda than any of these other bikes I tested. Of course, the DRZ only has 5-speed, but like when we're talking about the KLX, it also is a 6-speed, like the WR and all this. And the way these bikes work is they have a 1 through 6, and it's a very linear path, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps up. The Honda has a very close 1 through 5, so it feels like the dirt bikes that I used to ride growing up, but then it has an extended 6. Now, when you do modifications like an ECU mod and gearing and stuff, this 6 will pull on the highway. I'm about to do the ECU video for the Rally, and you'll see that I can easily get this motorcycle up to 80 miles per hour on the highway. I do a bunch of speed tests before and after, and 6 gear is actually usable. So even though they made it an overdrive, it can still pull on you, which I do like. The slipper assist clutch, that is amazing on the Honda. KLX has standard. The Honda, you could pull that clutch with your pinky. It feels hydraulic. It's amazing. Some people were swapping them out to the CBR. I don't know why. I love the light pull of it. I like the slipper assist. I like when I accidentally downshift too abruptly and I'm on something hard like a rock or pavement, that you don't get that wheel chutter, like it actually like slows it a little bit, a quarter turn just enough, so you don't get any wheel hop. I love that. So when it comes to the engines, okay, both of these motorcycles achieve their 300 badge by different ways. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. The KLX is literally the KLX 250 bored out to a KLX 292, and that's it. It's basically the same motorcycle. Now the Honda, they redefined the whole motorcycle, everything down to the frame and everything else. It's stroked. What that tends to happen is the KLX has a little more horsepower, but the Honda has a lot more usable low-end torque, which I like because I like to ride a lot of single track, and I like to sit in the 5,000, 6,000 RPMs, maybe even lower. And the Honda's not only has more torque, but its peak torque is in that range. So I feel like the Honda has definitely a lot more usable torque and power than some of these other bikes, and also as well as the KLX, but they're neck and neck as far as power is concerned. It's just one has more torque, and the KLX seems to gain its power further in the rev range, and that's because of the fact that one is bored and the Honda is stroked. So basically the stroke means that you're pulling the piston down further, whereas boring means you're extending the head, the piston head. And that's how they achieve their CC differences. Or the Honda's a 286, the Kawasaki's a 292. Next, briefly talk about aesthetics. I personally find the Honda to be more aesthetically pleasing. The big reason is I just like the sharp edges. The KLX looks exactly like the older KLX. The radius shrouds look pretty good. I think they're okay. The Honda being just red, I guess that threw some people off, so now they're making a gray one. But, you know, I just think the Honda looks better. I think everybody compliments me on the Honda, especially the Rally. And also KLX does this weird thing with the front like nose. There's like this separation in this two-piece design, which is so dated looking. I feel like KLX could have stepped up a little bit in that. Now, this is objective. This is my personal opinion. But when we're talking about factors which would make me look at one towards the other side by side, of course, approaching these bikes, the aesthetics is something that's going to be very important. The big thing the Kawasaki has to offer over the Honda is its suspension. Kawasaki's suspension is better. It has clickers. It's pretty good. My friend had it set pretty tight, and it worked really good on whoops. The only caveat with that is, for me personally, that doesn't matter. Because I am 230 to 240 pounds, I fluctuate in that weight range. So either of these motorcycles, the suspension is not going to be good for performance suspension for me. I'm going to have to buy suspension regardless. So the one big plus for the Kawasaki is not going to be a benefit for me. And that's just something that adds into my deciding factor. Now, if you were something like 180 pounds, 200 pounds, what's that, like 92 kilograms, something around that range, you might still want to upgrade the rear suspension on the Honda at that point. I rode the 300L through everything. I have videos on it talking about it, everything. Now I have a aftermarket suspension that I'm going to be doing a review soon. I x-rayed it to compare the old one versus the new one, which is going to be pretty cool. That's something I'm going to make a video on, so if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe. There is a lot of people that complain about the suspension and the non-existence of it. I use my legs a lot as a suspension. I stand and ride a lot. But yeah, the Kawasaki definitely has the plus in this angle if you're under a certain weight. If you're over 200 pounds, then you're probably going to be like me and you're going to need to swap out the suspension regardless. And another big deciding factor for me is future upgrades. Aftermarket, let's just say. Aftermarket presence for the Honda is ridiculous. For the Kawasaki, it's not non-existent, but it's very slim pickings. I mean, the Honda has, you know, you could get the ECU, you can get 10 different exhausts, you can get so much racks, everything, crash bars, you name it. There's 10 of every single item that you could get for this bike, whereas the Kawasaki has hardly nothing. And that's just because the Honda is so well received, it's so popular, and there's a lot of demand for it, and I don't know if that's really going to change. Sure, you can get a fuel mapper that, you know, increases your fuel injectors, the output on a Kawasaki, that would be your answer to adding exhaust. But the Honda, you could do that, or you can go to 550 Performance and get a, you know, a modified ECU that's running a higher octane, that's advancing your timing, that's working out like stutters and certain levels of the RPMs, all this in just like $150 upgrade. So I just feel like the Honda has the aftermarket presence, and that's got to be a huge plus for anybody that's looking at these bikes side by side and which one they're going to get. And the last part about upgrades that you really have to consider is because of the fact that the KLX already bored their engine out, I mean, yeah, you could bolt a bigger jug there to try to achieve a true 300, maybe eke out a little more power. But when it comes to the Honda and the stroked, if you did, let's say, for example, you took a bigger bore, as the Kawasaki did, and then you put it on the Honda, it would be exponentially bigger, because not only would the bore be bigger, you're pulling further distance. So you would just create so much more power and so much of a bigger CC. I feel like the Honda in that way, in the future, for people that might say, hey, I've had this bike for 2 years, I'm ready to add some real power to it. You know, they put it, by this point, you put a jug on it like you did with the 250. You know, you bump this thing up, you know, it becomes like, what, a 310, 320, and now you have a completely different motorcycle for your first rebuild. That's not as readily available for the Kawasaki because you're already bored out. And, you know, as you start to bore the jug bigger and bigger, it becomes less strong, or you have a giant mass on there and it might not fit into the frame, or it's just heavy, you know, so that's just something to think about for future upgrades. Another reason why I think the aftermarket presence is better for the Honda. But as I said, there's tons of more things that go into in the original review. I just wanted to make this a layout, TLDR, like why I chose the Honda over the Kawasaki, and I did ride these bikes back to back and to make an informed decision. So I hope you guys found this video useful, and I also would like to thank my patrons. Be sure to check out my Patreon. I have tons of videos on there, free content. If you just take the time to check it out, I will be greatly appreciative. Well, my name is Andrew, and as I always say, if you ride any of these motorcycles and you throw your leg over that bike, you have my respect. I'll catch you in the next one. Be safe out there, guys. Thanks for watching.